Rav Nachum, it's literally like you look like a Chagavim in the eyes of the Kananim.
Yeah, I noticed the scale is not right. Well,
there's all those science fiction movies of a certain, in the 50s. Okay, so when we decided to do Amira LeAkum was actually Rav Nachum's idea. I immediately thought of several sugyot and a famous part of Chumash. So basically, what I'd like to do today, the Gemara. Well, I sent you Gemaras. The Gemaras, the Rashi, Tosfos is very important. Get us into it. There are some Rishonim, some you got as Rishonim, but some are actually on the particular format of the daf that I sent you of the Gemara, and there's some there. The topics of Amira LeAkum will, and the particular Gemaras will mix with each other, and it's really a process of discovery. I'm interested in halachic formulations of issues, halachic formulation of halacha, and I'm also interested which has generally not been our interest, and some theological issues. Here today, I would say theological issue I'm interested in, and here there are hints and I think pieces towards the creation of, just to use it fancy, a theology of the Akum that we're dealing with. We're going to be concerned with Amira. What does Amira mean? Can that be expanded or narrowed concept? And then the other issues of the status of this particular Aveira. So in terms of this process of discovery, I call your attention, you should have all this material, to Shmot Yud Bet, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. This is the Mikro Kedolot two pages that was sent to you. Okay, anybody have a difficulty in finding it, let us know. Good.
I volunteer to read.
So read the Chumash, the Pasuk Tetvav. Vayom HaRishon.
Ubiyom HaRishon, Mikra Kodesh, Ubiyom HaShvi'i Mikra Kodesh, Yelachem, Kol Malacha Lo Yaseh Bahem.
Could you read it again? Kol Malacha
Lo Yaseh Bahem.
I don't think it's Yaseh. It's a Tzera under the Yud. Yeoseh.
Lo Yeaseh Vahem Ach Asher Yeachel Lechol Nefesh Hu Levado Yeaseh Lachem.
Okay, good, thank you. So how do you, the phrase talking about Yontiv here, right? But Kol Malacha Lo Yeaseh Vahem. So how do you translate it?
So on the first day.
No, don't translate the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Will not be done. Will not be done for you. Or will not be done. Will not be done on it.
Okay, or in it, fine. Will not be done. Anybody? Well, will, or what's another possibility? Shall. Okay, we got a lot of shalls, especially coming forth from potential rabbis. A lot of shalls. Shall not be done. How about must not be done? I just want to.
I actually like will. I think will not be done is more definitive. It's like it's not going to happen. This will not happen.
In your baritone voice. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Will not be done. No. This is important. The reading part's important. Okay. So.
Because the emphasis is on the work, not on the individuals.
Singing Torah. Look at Rashi.
Okay.
Look at Rashi. Lo Yeaseh Vahem.
Afilu al yedei acherim.
Give me a translation for that.
Even by others.
Yeah. Yeah, just on its own. You may have seen other stuff. Meaning, what does that mean?
Meaning it shouldn't, others other than the children of Israel who are thus commanded.
Do you have a term for those people who aren't children of Israel?
Personally, Akum, Goyim.
Okay, fine. Okay. Well, you said those others, which actually turns out to be a very good term in terms of contemporary discourse about others. Here they call them others. Okay, now this process discovery, your footnote tells you have to look in the Mechilta for this, whether it's the Mechilta or Tanchuma. But in any event, we will find it, but it tells us to go to the Ramban, and we're going to go to the Ramban. Jeremy, start the Ramban off. We got a long Ramban, but it's going to be good.
Over here?
So the Ramban is on that same page. Yes. Jeremy?
Yeah. I'm just getting it open.
Oh, just getting it? Okay.
Okay. Kol malacha lo yaseh bahem. Starting from the top, right?
Right.
Okay. Pirish Rashi, afilu al yedei acharim. Rashi says, even not by others. Velo havinuti zeh, shim ha'acharim ha'elu Yisrael, hem atzman musarim alea. Ve'anani mushar b'malachti shelo tasel yado. Ele she'im meta'eh oto be'asur, mushar alea mishum, ve'lifnei ever lo titen mikshol. Iver, sorry. So Ramban's like, I don't get this, because like they have the Isser upon them. Why would, if they're Yisrael, they have
Wait. Okay, so fine. Acherim just means others.
Right.
So the first class of it means not you.
Like someone
others.
else is doing it for you. And he's like,
Right.
this doesn't, like, this is complicated for me, because if we're talking about another Jew, they already have a prohibition on them to not do malacha. So why would we repeat this line here? Why,
It's also a category problem, right?
Yeah.
Because we already have a Deraita telling us. In other words, in your shul you'll have Jack. Okay, every shul has a Jack, or Jack's ready to find out on Shabbos to find out the baseball scores, the light for Kiddush. He's a gabbai or whatever he is. He's ready to do that. And if you tell him to do it, or you don't even tell him to do it, he'll end up do it. The Jewish guy, but he'll do it. That's lifnei iver. You can't do that. So I mean, just reminding us that it doesn't seem. So okay, so he takes care of that problem. V'im acherim alolu. Oh, bein belachto atzmo. Okay, what does that mean? Bein belachet hamolacha haoseh shela haoseh atzmo.
Well, that I think was from the previous clause. That was talking about the Yisrael. Whether he's doing
He's not. He's still in the Yisrael. Absolutely.
Right. Like whether it's for you or for him, whatever, doesn't matter.
Right. Doesn't matter. But I did it for the rabbi, right?
Yeah.
V'im acherim.
V'im acherim halalu goyim einanu mizharim b'Torah al malacha shel goy klal lo b'yom tov v'lo b'Shabbat. Ela sheyesh ba shvut midivreihem im hamira shelanu. So he's like, and if we're talking about goyim, we're actually not. There's no prohibition in the Torah on the malacha of a goy, not on Yom Tov and not on Shabbos. Rather, there's like this shvutz.
No. So I just want to say, in terms of mentoring for pedagogical teaching, which I'm sure you do, the ela, because what we've done is it can't refer to goyim and it can't refer to yidden.
Right. Yeah. So he's like,
we have a problem because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
So who does this line refer to? Because
right,
it can't refer to the Jews because they already have a prohibition, and it can't refer to the goyim because they actually don't have a prohibition d'oraisa.
Right. Ella. Now you go Ella.
Ella. I didn't even wait. Ella. But that's not the big Ella. Okay. Ella sheyesh ba shvut midivreihem im Amira shelanu. Kmo she'amru Amira legoy shvut v'zeh davar mevuar. But that I don't think that solves yet the problem. I don't think that's the big Ella.
It's yeah, but it's a big Ella because it solves the problem until we see we got a bigger, until we see it doesn't solve the problem.
I don't really understand why Ramban has such a problem here at all. The fact that the verse is written in the passive tense, lo ye'aseh, means the commandment in this particular pasuk is not on any individual. It's about the work itself. We don't want this work to be done. It has nothing to do with who's doing it.
Wait, but
It can't be done. We can't benefit from it.
right, but
No, but it doesn't say you can't benefit from it. It says it shouldn't be done. And
well, it
therefore,
can't be.
sounds like
But that's what Rashi's saying when he says, you can't benefit from it. Even if somebody else is doing it, it doesn't matter if he's allowed to or not doing it.
I don't think Rashi's saying you can't benefit from it.
You.
You can't even have Acherim do it. And I think that
it can't be done for you.
And that's
the bottom line.
It doesn't say for you. Where does Rashi say for you?
Lo yaseh bahem, that's what Rashi says.
But bahem, lo yaseh bahem.
No, bahem is referring to the days. Referring to the days.
And so Rashi's saying you can't. There can be no work going on around you. For instance, Ashani brought this up really well. Like shvitat kelim. Think about that, right? You cannot have, which is like obviously Beit Hillel, Beit Shammai, but for the moment, right, a sense of like also the non-Jews like can't be doing this work for you. And the Ramban says, what are you talking about? The Torah never says that. Right?
No, but you know what? The Torah does talk about the benefit. It's the whole thing's a qualifier.
Mishum Shvut, which means it's Darabanan, and if it's Darabanan, then he can't be getting it directly from a pasuk like this. That's the issue that Ramban.
This is going to be
unless you claim a smach
Go ahead, Joel. Finish your sentence. So let me say something.
Sorry, unless you claim that this is merely a smachta, which Rashi doesn't sound like he's saying that.
Right, but that's Ramban in the end says that, but that's why he's.
I should have told all you guys stop throwing around terms. We got enough. Just use the terms that are here.
No, the pasuk in
if we just
of
use
itself focuses on it.
You're gonna hear something strange from me. I support your view. Okay, you haven't heard that in a while. Okay, it should not be done. There seems to be right on the act. I don't care who does it. Right. However, the halachic mind still. Okay, so I'm agreeing with you, but the halachic mind says it still has to in the end refer to somebody. We know that it can't be Jews because each Jew has their own tzivui on this, and we know it can't be a non-Jew. I'm going to ask a question: what term should I use for non-Jew? Should I say, is it goy? Sounds terrible. I will use that term periodically because I'll forget. I'll use the word akum because it's still strange enough. Problem with akum here, akum and all these things is that akum, which often means goy, does not necessarily mean what it means literally. Ove kachavim umazalot. It could very well be a monotheistic non-Jew. Let's try using the word akum. The word goy doesn't sound. It just doesn't sound right. If I fall into it, just make sure in a diplomatic way to correct me. But I'm continuing with what I'm saying to Asher and to all of you. So therefore, just on that basis, who does it directly refer to? Strategically, at this point, singing rabbi, wait a moment, just wait a moment. Strategically, this Ella is bigger than I think Jeremy's ready to give it credit for, because strategically, what has the Ramban done? He has said, well, it doesn't refer to a Deraita. It does refer to the non-Jew, does refer to the Akum, but he makes a strategic thing, but actually, it's a Drabanan. Drabanan, what are we doing with the pasuk? But he calls it by a certain term. What is that Drabanan? He doesn't say the word Drabanan. He calls it a shvut. What's a shvut? I hear on my side. So, okay, Noam, what's a shvut? Give me a definition.
A shvut is a rabbinically mandated prohibition that initially has its source in Shabbat, because shvita, so they get to shvut for rabbinic Shabbat prohibitions, but more broadly, shvut is taken to mean any any rabbinic prohibition, specifically as it pertains to non-Jews when we see the Gemara.
When we see the Gemara. I haven't seen the Gemara, so fine, that's one. Two, I like how you say Shabbat and Shabbat, right? So when the word Shabbat is used here, and he doesn't use the word Drabanan, thank you for the definition. I can't find fault, trying to find fault with it, but I can't find fault with it. But it's the part of the strategy there is, he does say Midivrehem, he won't say Drabanan. A Shabbat seems a high level. A Shabbat, in terms of status, seems to encroach on that Shabbat authority. And therefore, he's jamming it into the pasuk. How do you jam an answer that say that it's a goy, but it's midivrehem? You jam it in by saying Shabbat. And then you have all those other problems which had bothered Asher, which is, hey, we're talking D'oraita because this is a Torah verse. How does a Torah verse refer to a Shabbat? I just said that as a question mark. Everyone answer it? How does a Torah verse can be explained through a shvut?
Didn't the Aruch HaShulchan, we saw the Aruch HaShulchan basically say shvut is d'oraita.
Shvut is d'oraita. And why does the Aruch HaShulchan say that? Because of Rishonim like this, because of difficult pesukim that the Rishonim are talking about. In other words, it's not black and white. There may be very much, in terms of redoing your definition when you start thinking about it, is that Shabbat seems to have a hyper level that encroaches on that has a kind of a d'oraita impact. Is this difficult? Yeah, it's difficult. By the way, especially the last part of what you said, which you says it may refer in general to many other, we haven't seen that here, many other halachas, but it means every time you're talking to a friend and you ask you halachic advice, and you say, well, it's only a drabanan. Well, you apikoros, what do you mean it's only a drabanan? It could very well be that it has a derisive warrant. Shmartem, the derisive warrant is you do what you need to do. I think that's really what the Aruch HaShulchan is saying back when we learned it. And I screamed when we learned it then, because I tried to figure out what it meant. That the derisive warrant means you need to create other laws to protect the whole institution, to protect the spirit of Shabbos. I like that. I put in the word spirit, to protect the spirit of Shabbos, or people shouldn't leave Shabbos. It's not just to protect a particular halacha that you put a fence. Shavut seems more than that. Shavut says that you are protecting. You're protecting it. So therefore, to go back to my whole thing here, to answer this question, it doesn't apply to goyim, to akum, and it doesn't apply to Yidden. Well, of course, it doesn't apply to Yidden, but it does apply to akum. It applies to akum. How? Shavut, but how can it be there? Because this is a pasuk. There is a warrant for Shavut. There is a special status for Shavut. I think, by the way, one of the things, maybe by the time we end this shir this year, I'll explain it even better. I think it's not bad, but we have to concretize the definition and status of Shavut. But here it's used by no one else but the Ramban, who knows his Chumash and knows his halacha, and he gives us this. Any comments on what I said?
Can I, Rav Landes?
Yeah, go ahead, Joel. Go.
Just two. One is the Ramban has a particular shita, I think. Like Kadosh, last week, Harima Kadoshim, right? On Kadoshim to you in particular, with this idea that the Torah the pratim, the Torah, are incomplete. And therefore there are like Torah level laws that prevent you from even naval b'rshut Torah, even though they're not explicitly called out. And I think this kind of falls into that for him a little bit. Again, of like, if you just did Shabbat with only had malacha and nothing else, right, then it wouldn't, he says it somewhere else, I can't remember where it is, he says like, essentially you could set up a marketplace on Shabbat. And like, come on, let's be serious about this. But second,
this we have in the Rambam.
I wonder also if like there is a sense of like shvut, as maybe this goes along with this, of malacha is like the highest level, that's deoraita. There's something in between called shvut, and then there's like derabanan, right, which is like something else. And that there's 3 levels here, and it's not clear that shvut has kind of a leg in both of those places to some extent, right? It's
right. Okay, that's basically what a sense that's what I'm saying. But I wish I could say it even better, right? I mean, that's part of what we're dealing here. So I'm going back to Jeremy.
Another way.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Rabbi. Maybe this was your intention, but like, if we think about it in terms of an aseh and lo taseh, meaning there are a bunch of malachot associated with a lo taseh of lo taseh malacha, but there's some sort of, I guess, right. When I started about this, I knew like there needs to be a pasuk somewhere that tells me it's an aseh, but meaning like even maybe Maaseh Breshit, right? And like the idea that, right, God created Shabbat, there's like an indication there that there should be something called an aseh of resting, that if we don't do it, it's a violation of the first principle of Shabbat that already exists in the Torah, but they're not comfortable calling that a deoraita because, it's a Charti Shabbat Kodesh. Well done, Joel. So, I mean, maybe that's what it is, but for some reason they don't like want.
Okay, so what you're doing, this is good. What Joel's doing is good. What I'm doing is good. We're trying to find out what's the categorization. So right now you put yourself out on a limb by saying that a shvut is a form of aseh in terms of its impact, or in terms of its in terms of the weight. The only thing I'd say here is that it doesn't sound like an aseh over here. Just doesn't sound, it just doesn't sound that way. So you're doing part of the the structure underneath the tashkit. Let's leave that. Good. Let's leave it at that. Going back to Jeremy, where we saw Amira Lagoy Shavut, V'zed Devar Mevuar B'Gemara, different places of Gemara. We're going to get to some of these Gemaras. Aval. Oh, is this the aval you wanted to put?
Yeah, the aval is the emphasis. That I don't understand. The ella is like not the aval and the bringing of the mechilta. This is the big thing.
It gets big. I would say it gets bigger and bigger. He's a master. He's a master. I'm finished. I can just stop the halacha here. The first time I learned the Ramban, by the way, learning Ramban on Shabbos in yeshiva world didn't become popular until the mid 1960s. People would necessarily not learn the Ramban, and there were certain people that were very chashuv Talmidei Chachamim who gave shir. One of them was Rabbi Parnas. Rabbi Parnas, he would give shir during the summer on Ramban, on Chumash. Excellent shir, sweltering Washington Heights, sweat and hear the Ramban, a shir which actually now many more people could give, because people have fallen into learning Ramban and they understand it better. He stopped it here. He didn't want to hear from the Aval. So now Jeremy's going to give us the Aval. Go ahead.
Aval מצאתי במחילתא כאן, כל מלאכה לא יעשה בהם, לא תעשה אתה, ולא יעשה חברך, ולא יעשה גוי מלאכתך. אתה אומר, לא תעשה אתה, ולא יעשה חברך, ולא יעשה גוי מלאכתך, או לא תעשה אתה, ולא יעשה חברך, ולא יעשה גוי מלאכתו. Talmud Lomar.
Melachto.
Melachto.
We didn't have that ending before. Melachto. Right?
Yeah. Right. Melachtecha versus Melachto. Can he do something? One thing to do.
Which way is it?
You,
right.
Another. So he's asking which way it is.
Right.
And then he's about to give his answer.
Right.
Talmud lomar sheshimim taseh melacha ha lo taseh ata v'lo yaseh chaverecha aval yaseh goy melachto. Okay, you can't do it and your friend can't do it, but the goy can do melacha for himself.
Divrei. Divrei.
Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yonatan Omer Eino Tzarich ve'lo kvar ne'emar shesh yamim tavod v'asit tekom melachtecha ve'harei dvarim kal v'chomer uma Shabbat chamura ein ata muzhar al melachat hagoy k'melachtecha v'chulei. Okay, so Rav Yonatan says you don't need that pasuk for that because you have a kal v'chomer. That just as Shabbat is chamura, you do not need to, because Shabbat is in itself a chumrah, you don't need to be more conscious about the work of a goy than your own malacha. The malacha of a goy than your own malacha.
Excuse me, according to this, Ad Kan Breita Zo, according to this Breita, what's the status of the Avera?
No, it seems to be according to the Breita that what you like the goy can't do work for you, but the goy can do work for themselves.
So when you tell the goy, but what status is? You just gave me what the halacha is. I'm asking you what the status is.
What I don't know what you mean by status.
Deraisa, Drabanan, what is it?
It's an Isser D'oraita.
It's a D'oraita. Yeah, it's an Isser D'oraita to ask a goy to do something for you.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Ad Kan B'Braita Zo. That's as far as we get. But now help me, Jeremy, help me tell that story or how the story is being told. What did he lead us through the Ramban, back and forth? Take a moment and bring us up to date. Or not bring us up to date. Give us the structure from the beginning.
Yeah. So the Ramban is starting off. He starts off by showing how like there's a problem with this pasuk as it doesn't make sense if this pasuk. Well, okay. How I read the Ramban is he's saying it doesn't make sense that this pasuk should refer to Jews, and it doesn't make sense that this pasuk should refer to Goyim. Then he comes in and sort of shows why this pasuk may in fact refer to Goyim, because he's saying the prohibition on Goyim doing malacha is only on them doing malacha for you, and that's what the pasuk is coming in to say. But actually, the reason that his earlier kasha on why it can't be for Goyim isn't complete is because the non-Jew can in fact do the malacha for themselves.
For himself, and that's the chiluk, right? Yeah. So therefore, this is a d'oraita. We have no longer any problem. And the Isser is on acherim. In a certain sense, he's explaining what might be Rashi's pshat. Acherim is non-Jews, and that's it. And it can't be done.
And they'll also say this is because Ramban is aware of everything that came before him, but he's being noticeably silent on the issue of, okay, he does the...
So if he's silent, so can you be silent. Okay, Elie Wiesel, you can be silent too. I don't know, that's it.
The Elie Wiesel reference was necessary, but I take it.
Fine, but it hit home. Okay, now, I think you're right about that, so I apologize. But now, come to his conclusion. Ubavadai.
Sorry, I muted myself. Ubavadai hi asmachta ba'alma shabau le'asor midivrehem Amira mimalechet shalanu v'msamchu ota lemikra hazeh aval malechet hagoy b'shalo mutar. So we're really only talking about like the things that we come to make usher is our work, someone doing work for us. But the malacha of the goy himself is mutter. It's mutter for that to happen on Shabbat. I'm not sure what the Hava Amina is that a goy wouldn't be allowed to do malacha for themselves on Shabbat. But
well, once we have sovereignty, how dare, as Asher would say, any malacha take place on that holy day?
yeah, but it's not even like.
I didn't quite say that. I wasn't saying. I said it shouldn't be done for us, and I said I think that's what also Rashi was saying, and I'm a little confused even by how extensively Ramban has to go into explaining, because I think it's also inherent within the pasuk itself. It's Mikra Kodesh Yelachem. This is a day that's going to be Kadosh Lachem. So it's the work being done for you.
Well said. I don't know that I can give a full answer for the Ramban, but at the very least I can do pshat on the Ramban. I hear you.
Right. Well, I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with the Ramban. I'm just saying I don't understand why he needed to.
I got it. So giving pshat on the Ramban in terms of his strategy right now, he says, "B'vadai, this is just an asmachta." He's clarifying the halacha. The halacha about this is Easter. It is usher for, to do this, to tell a goy these things. Amira LeAkum, it's usher, and we use this pasuk. So actually, this pasuk is an attachment or the reliance. It doesn't have to work perfectly. If it worked perfectly, it would be deraita. It doesn't work perfectly, and all the reasons we show why it doesn't work perfectly actually makes it into a what? A shavut that has an at least. Midivrehem, I'll say it that way. Midivrehem, and there's so mechan a pasuk, and of course it can't work. It can't work possibly fully, because if it worked fully, it would already be a deraita. And we see it's not a deraita for all the reasons that we said. Aval b'shalo omer l'goy v'oseh. V'chein perish Rashi Gemara Bava Metzia. We're going to get to this, but what he hasn't explained now, Ramban. So what has Ramban given up in explaining? His original problem, right? His original problem
with Rashi.
Yeah. His original problem was, it doesn't refer really to Yidden, doesn't refer really to Akum. So, who does it refer to? He kind of he says, well, halachically, he gives our status. Dear right, Jew can't do it. Rabbanan, dear right, a goy can. But Rabbanan, a goy can't do it for a Jew. That's all. That's fine. But that's Rabbanan. That's Divrei Sofrim. That's not within the pasuk. So in a certain sense, he's left the pasuk. His original problem, he doesn't really answer.
No, I think he is answering it. I think he's saying that lo ya'aseh bahem is to clarify that the goy can do it for themselves.
Okay, wait a second. It says, Kol malacha lo ya'aseh bahem.
No, but the goy can still do it for you, Deoraita, according to him, right? He's still taking that.
Yeah.
So it does. I think Rav Landes is right. I think he doesn't ever answer who the Torah itself is being,
is addressing.
Yeah.
Was addressing. So I think when you mix the exegetical, which you're always doing, with the halacha, you're gonna have to. In the end, you're gonna have to decide where your major interest at the moment is going to be. And I would say here that his major interest at the moment is halacha. Now, there's another way of doing it, but we'll see it in a moment. The Shamba Mechilta, Jeremy, you're going to finish the Ramban.
Rav Landes, I think his initial problem is with Rashi, and I think maybe he just disagrees with Rashi that this pasuk warrants such an explanation. Could that? In other words,
he would dump Acherim.
Yeah,
he would dump the thing. Okay, that I think is a nice answer. I would have loved it if he said it. No, I'm I'm not dismissing what you're saying, far from it. I'm not dismissing it. But he kind of lets it, okay, so let's just say how we categorize this. We are now answering for the problem that we have with the Ramban and saying, yeah, Ramban would probably just dump Rashi. Except the problem is he doesn't only dump Rashi. The Shamba Mechilta, you're my straight man. Dump Rashi. Well, you're also going to dump the Mechilta?
Well, no, he says the Mechilta is just an asmachta. That's how he handles the Mechilta.
Well, let's see what it says.
Which I think is also sort of forced. If the Mechilta doesn't.
Okay. The Shamba Mechilta Ode. Okay, Jeremy, finish up reading and then we can summarize.
אין לי אלא דברים שהם משום מלאכה, דברים שהן משום שבות מנין, תלמוד לומר ושמרתם את היום הזה, להביא דברים שהן משום שבות וברייתות כאלה מטעות, ואין ראוי לכותבן כפשוטן, שגם זה נראה שהוא אסמכתה בעלמא. ויש לי בזה פירוש נכון, או לדבר עליו.
Okay. So how do you understand this?
The Mechilta is also saying, that I don't.
In other words, is Yavni right? Does the Ramban now dump the Mechilta?
Yeah, he's definitely dumping the Mechilta.
Yeah.
He's definitely dumping the Mechilta.
And therefore, the Acherim.
Actually, therefore, the Ella should have been read that as you wanted it to be read.
If he's dumping the Mechilta, then he's also dumping Rashi.
I like hearing that. Flush it out.
So the Ella at the beginning, when it's like Ella she'imeteh oto be'asur muzhar le'em mishum lifnei. No, not that Ella.
Ella sheyesh b'shvut midivreim.
Right. Ella sheyesh b'shvut midivreim. So like that. Actually, that's it's like no. This is like the whole. It's all here because of shvut, and this mechilta is actually not conclusive in any way, shape, or form in helping us to determine this issue.
And it's saying
because
that he's totally dumping Rashi. He's completely dumping Rashi.
Excuse me, Asher? What do you say?
In dumping the Mechilta, he is completely dumping Rashi. Because Rashi's whole Perush is based on the Mechilta.
Yeah. Rashi's gone, Mechilta's gone. But he saves the halachic structure. When he saves the halachic structure, when you dump Rashi and you dump the Mechilta, you're dumping Rashi and the Mechilta. Mechilta sounds d'oraita. But one of the things that you have with having the Mechilta is you have this category about acherim. This comes up all the time. Let's get whoever the name of the custodian who's not Jewish, let's get him to do it, the Shabbat goy, right? Let's get him or her to do it. That's an important category. If you dump it, then you don't have any real response. Ramban, real taking care. Ramban now, I understand from what everyone said, how everyone yelled at me in a good way. Now I understand. But the Ramban is saying, look, we have to deal with acherim. Thank God for the rabbis, they deal with acherim. But it's not in the pasuk, right? It's not in the pasuk. And therefore, actually now this will help us. There's a chizkuni here, but you can do that on your own. Look at the smag, Sefer Mitzvot, the adult. Smag, a little bit after, Smag wrote a little bit after, at the end of Ramban's life, okay? At the end of Ramban's life. Whether he was a Tosafos, probably a Tosafos. There's two shitas of who he was. I have to leave that to the historians. Actually, here that probably will make a difference. Not make a difference, but would be helpful to know. But if it's Moshe ben Yaakov Mekuchi, that was a very big gadol, and he says the Tanya b'Mechilta. You see that second paragraph, right? See that second paragraph, the Tanya b'Mechilta. Josh, would you read that? The Tanya b'Mechilta. Wait, 1 second. 1 second. We have a new guy, Isaac. Welcome, a different Isaac. Isaac Cowie. Isaac, do you have the material?
I found it.
What?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, Josh, lead us through.
Okay.
Tanya
תניא במכילתא, פרשת בו, כל מלאכה לא יעשה בהן לא תעשה אתה ולא יעשה חברך ולא יעשה העקום מלאכתך.
And why don't you guys read
מכאן
it?
שאסור לישראל להניח גוי לעשות מלאכתו. בין ביום טוב, בין בשבת. לא יעשה.
Okay.
שאסור לישראל להניח לגוי לעשות מלאכתו ביום טוב,
בין
שבת.
We can't hear you.
אבל אם מסר לו הישראל המלאכה מערב שבת, מותר, ובלבד שיהיה בביתו של גוי, כאשר ביארנו בהלכות שבת. Proper turn off my video. Did you hear anything?
We heard it to the degree that you're going to have to repeat it, but let's see if your machine's working. Go ahead. Do it again. Tanya b'Mechilta.
תניא במכילתא, כל מלאכה לא יעשה בהן, לא תעשה אתה, ולא יעשה חברך, ולא יעשה העקום מלאכתך. That's the quote from the Mechilta. משמע מכאן שאסור לישראל להניח לגוי לעשות מלאכתו, בין ביום טוב, בין בשבת. דאורייתא. Okay, it sounds from this Mechilta that asking a non-Jew to do any of this melacha on Shabbat or Yom Tov is a deoraita prohibition. אבל אם מסר לו ישראל המלאכה מערב שבת מותר. Like giving them or asking them to do it before Shabbat is allowed. ובלבד שיהיה בביתו של גוי כאשר ביארנו בהלכות שבת. As long as it's all done in the house of the non-Jew, as you said.
Why would that work? Why would that work? You give it to him Erev Shabbos, and it's done, and he does the work in his house. Why does that work halachically?
If the basis for the prohibition is from this verse, then it's only on the day itself. That's only
Okay, that's Erev Shabbos, okay.
In the Gemara,
you basically have, in other words, he's doing it on his own time. He's not doing it on Shabbos time.
And is there an implicit assumption here?
What?
Is there an implicit assumption that you have to give it b'chadei sheyaseh? If we have to wait Motzei Shabbos.
Fine.
I just say it's interesting that we have this concept of waiting on Motzei Shabbos, but we don't have a concept of giving.
But the Kadesh Yasa means, Kadesh Yasa basically means, I mean, there's a lot of arguments about it. But one way of understanding Kadesh Yasa is in some feasible idea that he's the greatest sewer, tailor in the world, and that he can make those cuffs and hems in record time. In other words, you don't have to look at it. But it's basically on the idea he's doing it on his own time, his own place. But you're right. But that I would say is a technicality. You moved it from Shabbos time to Goysha time and to Akum's time and to an Akum place. It's outside of our context. We do that. This was explains this already in Hilchot Shabbos, say in the Sefer Mitzvah. And therefore, what's the status of halacha according to Smag right now? The status of the halacha is
up to this point, deoraita.
Deoraita. Absolutely. Omnam.
אמנם יש לומר שהיא אסמכתה בעלמא. Okay, he's doing a Ramban move. שאם הייתה מן התורה, לא היו מתירים חכמים לעשותה אף בביתו של גוי, ואף מסרה מערב שבת. Okay, but we're kind of forced to say that this Baraita is an asmachta, because if it was from the Torah, the rabbis wouldn't have let us even have these, loopholes.
So therefore, according to this, according to this Isaac Landes, right? Kadesh Yasa and all that doesn't won't hold at all. In other words, he doesn't hold by that halacha, evidently. Or he says that halacha is only a drabana, only refers to drabanan issues. Isaac, what do you think?
Rav Landes, are you saying that because it's not
in the Torah, lo hayam atrin chacham was lasota apaveto shel goy.
Is, unless we're mistaken, is the beito shel goy referring to? I mean, I said earlier bichdei she'aseh, but is the beito shel goy maybe referring to another aspect that maybe he sort of was konesh?
Look at the footnote 2. Read the first line of the footnote.
Footnote number 2?
Yeah, l'chayra.
L'chayra mashma, de'lefi mai desvirle dehavi deoraita, asur midoraita bebeito, afim misromi be'od yom.
Yeah, it's the only way of understanding it. You'd have to put the two together.
V'nireh shetam bezeh.
Okay, that's enough. Just the first line's enough. So that seems to be the situation. And therefore, let's finish up with Josh. V'lashon zeh, Josh.
ולשון לא יעשה, הכתוב בתורה, מוכיח קצת שהוא דרשה גמורה. But this language of לא יעשה is...
יעשה.
לא יעשה. יעשה.
Yeah.
I have a short today.
Oh, okay.
So yeyase is this proves it's just a drasha or like an asmachta that we're hanging on to.
Why? Explain. That line's important. Because it goes back to what originally my chabruta here of Asher was saying. Lo yeyase means it will not be done categorically.
Right. If it was categorical, then we wouldn't allow it to be done anywhere, or even talk about it before Shabbat. But because it's not categorical, we know it's a drasha.
Okay. Very good. Excellent.
It's as opposed to an asmachta. He's saying, but the language sure makes it seem like it's like directly from the text, so it should be a daraita.
I read it the way Yavni read it too. The Rasha Gemara means that this is like daraita.
In other words, you're saying that he has another. This is another pushback in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. By drasha Gemara, I learned. Drusha, like last night.
Yeah.
My fault, my mistake. I confess. Shoot me, because I was wrong. Okay. But it's Leah said, which is categorical, would mean even to the non-Jew. Where does this leave us halachically? We'll have plenty of Gemaras and stuff like that, but where does again, this whole discovery is in the middle, right? Ramban, Smag, right? Rashi, Ramban, Smag. Where does this leave us halachically now? In fact, where does it leave us halachically? In fact, okay. Gershon, where does this leave us halachically? Have you been part of this? Have you heard this?
Yes.
Where does this leave us halachically?
Well, it's not an Issa D'Oraita, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan.
No, but the last line, B'lashon Zeh, Lo Yaseh Kasav V'Torah B'chiach Kitzat, Shehu Drasha Gemara.
Yeah, I still reiterate. The point is, it's
No, but
it's the Rabbanan. That to me is conclusive proof. As everyone else says, Machta Ba'am is a drasha. He can't actually bring himself.
Wait, are you learning drasha the way that I learned drasha a moment ago that I confessed was wrong? That a drasha means not seriously? No, drasha, I was wrong. A drasha Gemara means an absolute exegetically correct.
It's not implicit, it's implied. But that doesn't mean, I'm not sure it has the koach to say that this is D'Oraita.
I mean, you can have...
Okay. That I like. In other words, it leaves us in confusion.
Safek D'Oraita.
No. How do you want to paskin? How do you want to paskin about Amira or LeGoy? Right now, how would you want to paskin? Would you want to paskin that it's D'Oraita? Just how you'd want to. Or would you want to paskin, given what you've seen so far? What are your netiyot? I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to everyone. What are your netiyot? Jeremy, what's your netiyah? Do you think it's D'Oraita? Do you think it's Rabbanan? If you had to pick. You have to pick. I can't hear you.
No, I know. It's not because I'm on mute. I think it's the Rabbanan.
But if you say it's Rabbanan, you're always going to have this nagging feeling.
I think it's their Rabbanan, but you lie to people and tell them it's their D'Oraita.
And that person might even be you.
I lie to myself.
Or your daughter, you know?
No. I don't lie to my daughter.
Okay. No, but in other words, it puts us in a funny position. Funny position. Okay. That's, we'll take a break now for 6 minutes and we'll, I'm sorry. Mimi, what do you got on this?
Oh, I have a question. I don't know if you've covered this in a past year, so just tell me, but I guess folks can take a break, I guess. I just, like when we say at Kiddush, right? Like, ata uvincha uvitecha, ve'avzecha, ve'amascha, ve'hemtecha, ve'gercha, asher bisharecha. I mean, I guess there's that bisharecha qualifier, but I guess it just, like, that seems so strong to me that you should be giving everyone around you a break. That, I don't know, I guess I'm just surprised that that's
I know
not
what you say, that's inclusive for D'Oraita, right? Everyone's included.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have a response to Mimi?
Capitalism puts constraints as to the efficacy of that statement.
As it does everywhere. But what the heck do you mean? What do you mean?
Aren't we distinguishing between a person's slave and a person's servant? Your Eved and your Amma are not a normal or just an average non-Jew.
Yeah, what about Ger?
But that's the Ger Chasha B'Sharecha.
Yeah,
I think what Mimi said actually supports the idea that it is that the pasuk that we looked at in Shmot is a D'Oraita, that nobody can do this work for you. The work can't be done. You can't ask anybody to do it. Now, what the part I was wondering, and I know none of the questions.
Wait.
Sorry, that's the next thing.
Okay, maybe you got strong support.
I don't know.
Anybody, and Asher wants to change the conversation, but for a second, or veer. Before he veers, anybody have a different response to Mimi?
I don't know that a ger is the same category. Ger, which I assume is ger toshav there, right? Is not necessarily the same category as a goy who, or aku might even be a better use now, right? Of somebody who, right, ger toshav, someone who accepts, maseh breshit, and versus an akum is not, and they may not be under this rubric of people who are required, and they're not in the pasuk. So there's no
thank you. This is a good response as well. So let me say the following. Am I missing somebody here? This is an important conversation. Yeah, I think we have a meta topic.
Yavni's raising his hand.
Yavni? I don't see your hand. Go ahead.
But I'm looking at the Mechilta that is being quoted. It's a little confusing, but I think it might also be saying the same thing that Mimi is saying. I haven't, yeah.
Okay.
It quotes that verse in it, and it seems to suggest that it is another proof text.
Okay. So let me say the following. This is really important, this conversation, because the part of the meta conversation is inclusion. Okay. Now, with inclusion comes a lot of penalties. You know, if you make everyone Shomer Shabbos, you know, there's a penalty for the person who becomes Shomer Shabbos. They have to be Shomer, even if they haven't bought into it. They're really not. That's talking about the non-Jew. As a penalty for society, like, you know, so who's finally going to make sure the air conditioning is on? You know, there's a different part, but I'm only saying this is not to give that as an answer. I think this notion of inclusion is important for even halachically for those who say that this verse is at the most a shvut, which is a big deal, but not a full dioraita. It still becomes very important about how do you play it out in real life. So I think we're going to see more of this in the Gemara. How do you play out and how do you create the society in which you have people that can be labeled as acherim, and we know what they mean, you know, who they mean, and what becomes the responsibility. And if you want me to change around and, you know, speak the discourse, since they're acherim and you have the power over them, how far does that power go in this specific case, in these specific issues, right?
You have the power, meaning like Zman Yisrael Sholetet.
Yeah, I mean, not even that far. I mean, we're talking, yeah, fine. I'll say it that way. We're talking about a Jewish society. We're talking about a Jewish society and a need for certain work to be done, even though lo yeyoseh, no work should be done. So how, you know, so it works on a lot of different levels. Okay, very good. We have some interest in more.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, ask the group.
Yeah, so I think in today's society, most work that is not done by the individual is done invisibly far away from us. So, for example, the electric company is working and provides us electricity, but in the day-to-day experience in my community, from what I can feel, it's not like you don't typically need a goy to come in and do things like you did when things would break down in much earlier eras. So I think that our cutting-edge issue is mostly about kalim or about non-sentient things being done for you.
I would be even more swayed 2 months ago.
Okay.
Amazon is not delivering in Israel, not because they don't have all the hardware, all the software. They got all the software. Can't deliver because people. They can't get because the people are dying on them or the people are refusing to work. So I'm not saying you don't have a point, but I can't accept right now the overwhelming notion. This is a good conversation. Your question still remains. Let's take a 6-minute break now.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you, guys. So let's go to Baba Metzia. The Avodah Zarah is very interesting. We don't have time. Let's go to Baba Metzia. And it's on the bottom of Tzadi Omid Aleph. It's like 10 lines from the bottom. Iboyalahu, I have a marking there if you're using my pages.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, fine. So, Joel, I'm going to ask you to read, translate, and let's see, and let's try to find what the issue is.
All right.
Iboyalahu.
Iboyalahu. Ma'u yomar adam l'nochri chasom parati v'dush ba. All right. So what's the rule? You say to a non-Jew, go muzzle my, right? You can't have animals working muzzled according to the Torah. You muzzle my cow and have it thresh. Is that the word? I never get it right. But
yeah, thresh.
There you go.
It's the malach of dash, right? It's thresh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know the English translation. I know what it is, but
Okay.
all right. Mi Amrinan. Ki Amrinan Amira L'Nochri Shvut Hanimi Linyan Shabbat D'Yisra Skila Aval Chasima D'Yisra Lav Lo. All right. So what are we talking about? Maybe it's because normally Amira L'Nochri is on Shabbat, right? That's because it's a really high Yisra. You get the death penalty for it. You get stoned. But to muzzle an animal, that's just, you just get lashes for that. You don't get killed if you do that. So maybe that's not the same thing. Or Dilma Loshna, or maybe it is. Maybe there's no difference between the two. In other words, Amira Nochri might only be a Shabbat thing because Shabbat is such a weighty Isur. And for less weighty Isurim, we don't care about it. Or maybe we care about it for everything. And Amira Nochri is actually just a problem in general. So I might
okay, so fine. So the question is so based on what you said, is it a universal Isur? Mm-hmm. Is the Shavut therefore becomes a term for a universal Divrei Sofrim, very high level Drabanan Isur on telling a non-Jew to do for yourself something which you can't do because it's us. Okay, exactly. That's what we have so far. Tashma.
Nochri Adash Befarato Shel Yisrael Enu Over Mishum Bal Tachsom Mavarhu de Lo Hosein Enu Over Mishum Bal Tachsom Mavarhu de Lo Avar Haisor Ika. And I lost the train here. What does Rashi say? He doesn't.
Nachri Adash V'Parato Shel Yisrael Eino Over Mishum Bal Tachsom. In other words,
there's no problem. There's no problem if he does it on his own. So,
well, Ma'avar Hu de Lo Avar, or May. In other words, we would probably read it May Aveira. Have to put in a hay or something.
Yeah.
I think it's not a Doraita, it's the Rabbanan.
Yeah, no, I see. So, okay, that's the Braita is Mishum Bal Tachsom, and so therefore this is now the Gemara coming to explain Ma'avar Hu Avar. He didn't commit an Aveira, Ha'isur Ika, but there's an Isur, right? Bedin Hu de Isura Nami Leka. No, it logically follows there's actually not an Isura either. Ve'aidi de Tana Seifa de Yisrael Hadash Befarato Shel Nochri Over Tana Resha Eno Over. And no, they're saying this is just matching the first half of the Braita or the second half of the Braita. And so the language, don't be miduyak in how you read the language of Eno Over as just there's not an Avera. It's actually there's not an Isur at all. So
in other words, we thought Over is a technical term for Dioraita. Isura would include Drabanan. Here's only a linguistic usage. So we still don't have really a proof. We don't have a proof that tells us that Shavut, and this was earlier mentioned by Noam, whether Shavut is a universal category or not. Mm-hmm. Tashma.
Right, Tashma. Deshachule avu de Shmuel. Halein Tore, I got to go to the next page. De Ganavim Armae. Meganchim Yaton. Mahu. All right. So you have, go back. They asked a question of Shmuel. You have some ox, right, that some non-Jews stole. And then it sounds like they make them well. Rashi think he says that you're mesares, right? That you castrate them. So what's the rule? In other words, can a
what's the reason for castration?
Why
do the Rashi, because the Rashi gives the full story, gives the backstory on it too.
Umeganchim yaton, umesarshinotam, ve'achar kach machzirin levalim, umeavat be'alav Yisrael gonvo anochri, shumakiro, mesarso kadesh yafeh lacharisha. Generally, Rashi is saying it's easier for a castrated animal, a neutered animal, easier to control when it's doing farm work. And the non-Jew knows a Jew can't do that to his animal, right? That's sore. And so he steals it from the Jew to help the Jew out so that it will be castrated all of a sudden, and then he's going to give it back to the Jew. So,
okay.
And there's another question, right? The non-Jew's doing this on your behalf, all right?
So wait. what's it really talking about here?
What it's really talking about is, can I go to my non-Jewish neighbor? I bought let's say a dog, right? Or, and can I say, hey, I can't fix this dog. Can you take this dog for a while, fix it for me, and then bring it back? It's like Amira LeAkum in a non-Shabbat case again. So,
by the way, I love the usage of fixed because it really means unfixed. But okay,
you're right. Fair enough.
But 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 it's also saying here is Amira LeAkum. When are you really over Amira LeAkum? And here it seems to be incredibly expanded that you're over Amira LeAkum even if there was no Amira LeAkum. There's no Amira LeAkum. So what's the category that's underlying it? So go back into the Gemara, and the Gemara says, Shachu, right? And so he sends back Shmuel. Go back to the Gemara. We're going to get this in Rashi. But first in the Gemara. Last two words of the top line. Shalchahu, that's Shmuel answering back.
Shalchahu, he sends back. Haramai David. He did like a roundabout, clever way of doing things, right? Behu. Arimu alehu v'yizdavun. So we're going to do it back to him and make him sell it. In other words, we're going to make a knas.
They were shrewd. We're going to shrew them.
Yeah.
We're going to, that rhymes with Jew. I wouldn't say something like that. That'd be anti-Semitic. We're going to shrewd them. Amara Papa.
Amara Papa. B'nei Marava Savrela.
No. I'm sorry. We should do Rashi. These Davin. They should sell it. Go ahead.
All right. V'lo yenei Yisrael ba'avera hu asa k'dei she'yeh yafeh lachrosh lefichach yikansuhu shelo yacharosh bo. Alma bi'isur delav nami asura amira l'nochri. Right. So Rashi says his end is interesting here, but he says, in other words, you can't get benefit from this animal. You still get the benefit of selling it, but you could have just sold it at any time. And therefore there is actually an isur of amira l'nochri in non-Shabbat related matters and just a love. Maybe not necessarily Shabbat.
Yeah, but let's go back to the other issue. That's right. There is the isur, but there was no amira. But there was an Amira. What's the Amira?
The Amira was hinting to the guy that you wanted him to go steal your animal.
So it doesn't say hinting here. All it says here, does Rashi say hinting?
He says.
I think
it's based on Hana. In other words, when is it really usher to do Amira LeAkum? I think is a major principle here. It's really usher when you get hana out of that's the whole thing of shalom, that's the whole thing of is he doing it for you? He's doing it for himself. Here he's doing it for you you get hana. But what Shmuel says, these things always have some sort of a sense, some sort of winking. And I don't think it refers to language here. Some sort of winking.
Well, I think this is why, even though Tosfot rejects this approach, I think this is what motivates Tosfot to quote the Shiltot that says that the Jews would tie a coin around the testicles of the oxen so that the Goyim would castrate it. Because I think the Shiltot is troubled by this notion that there's no actual Amira, so they create an instance in which, sure, it's not real Amira because that wouldn't fit into the Gemara, but there is some sort of action indicating that this is a desired outcome.
Okay, so Noam, that's a small Tosfot on Sadi Omid Aleph. Everyone, Sadi Omid Aleph on the bottom of the page. So Noam, would you just read that Tosfot that you said out loud?
Yes, sure thing. The Gadbin Lahu Aramai, Bishilto Derav Achai, Mefaresh Shayu Koshrim Dinar Bekis Shel Behema, Bechazaka, Vahanochri Goneb Hadinar, Vitolesh Hakis Umisarso. So Shiltot explains that they would tie a coin to the testicles of the behema, And when the Nochri would come to steal the dinar, and he would grasp the testicles and castrate the bull. Lashon ganbin lahu lo mashmahachi, but the language of steal doesn't imply this. Shelo ba'in ligov rak dinar, that they're only coming to steal the dinar. So Tosfot rejects this, but I still think it's important that the Shilto tried to explain in this manner because they're somewhat uncomfortable with the notion that there's no actual Amira.
I think you're exactly right. I think okay. That's good. Although I suggest, I'm sorry. I hope this is not close to anybody's bedtime because it's a bad image to have going to sleep. But nonetheless, yeah. What do you got, Asher?
Okay. Earlier when I mistakenly tried to veer the conversation, this is actually where I wanted to veer it, not having looked at that Tosfot, but I was wondering if everything we were talking about in the Ramban earlier and everything before the break really was focusing on the difference between hana'ah, having work done for you. We're talking about can a goy do? Well, of course a goy can do it for himself, but he can't do it for you. And I was wondering if the hava mina was really the idea if he's doing it for himself, can we get benefit from it even though he wasn't doing it for us? For example, if I'm in a house with somebody who's not Jewish and they turn on the TV for themselves, they want to watch TV. Am I allowed to then go and get enjoyment from watching TV with them? I've done nothing actually wrong. He didn't do anything for me. He did it for himself. And I was wondering if even then the whole issue that we were getting at was the hana'ah, that no, the hava mina here is it can't be done. You can't get any benefit from it at all, even if it wasn't done for you.
So this becomes the question for the poskim. You'll see it here, the various Gemaras I've given out, you see it here in Rashi and Tosfos, but how far, but actually that's the question, like how far do you take it? Look at the first, this won't be fully what you said, but it goes along the same lines, continuing this, because you're in the conversation here with Noam and with Joel. Go to the longer Tosfos above. Chason parati b'dashba, muzzle my ox and do the threshing. You have it, guys?
Yeah.
Ladies, gentlemen, perush b'dash b'tevuati. My tevua, okay?
He needs to
the marviach ba'amira l'nochri. Okay, b'tevuat no. Okay, the marviach ba'amira l'nochri. Semicolon. The tefuat nochri, he says, go use my cow and do your own stuff. Beshita the shari, this is not a great thing about animal rights, but this is what it says. Beshita the shari, for sure, it's permitted. Kevin Shein Yisrael niskar bechasima. El adarabba mafsid, because you're using up the cow's energy, or the ox's, whatever it is, ox's energy, but he's not marviach at all. It goes back to the notion that underneath the Amira, what you have here is the Tosot positing a thing that Amira has, the real understanding of Amira has to do with benefit. That's basically what's there. Adarabba mafsid kamosha pshita shepshita shemutar l'mo l'nochri achal nevela. Because in terms of his own, you can tell a nochri go have a cheeseburger, go have go have whatever nevela you want to eat, because that's no thing. But the question is, the chiddush is that if it's chason parati v'dash ba b'tevuati, that's usher because of the hana for the Yisrael. But if he said, here, take my cow, I see that you want, I see you need to bring your crop in, use my cow to bring your crop in, even doing something which is usher in the Torah, but you don't have that Isur, so you can go ahead and do it. Now, skip down now about 5 lines in the Tosfot. Umihu Amari. These cases of saying to a guy, go eat your tarfus is not exactly the same case. Amira Why are you calling it Amira Nafri? You can take the ham sandwich or whatever you can take it and you can bring it up to him, close your eyes, and you can give him the ham sandwich to chew on, and he can be very happy. So you don't have to call it Amira Nafri. You can even go so far, and here the halachic terms that I use here, but you can do it biyodayim. You can do it with your own hands. Avahacha also devar she'omer lenachri la'asot hu eino yachal la'asot k'mo levashel ol chasom, excuse me. But this is different because this is something that the Nachri himself, that he tells Nachri to do, he himself cannot do, which is, for example, to cook, the cooked tarfus, lachsom, or to do the chasima. And therefore the Amira is one step removed from that. Why did I want to do the Tosos? Because basically that is based on, now it seems that Tosos has added two principles that underneath Amira is the principle of Hana, that will the Jew get Hana or not? If the Jew gets no Hana, it should be mutter. But this other principle, maybe someone can explain it to me better than I'll say it now, this other principle that it has to be an act which a Jew himself is not allowed to do. It's, which involves the goy. You can give a non-Jew tarfus to eat. You can give him tarfus to eat. But you can't be mevashel on Shabbos or Yom Tov, or you can't be mevashel if it's milk and meat, and you can't do the action of chasima that is here. What's this principle? What's the second principle? The first principle of Marviach is pretty clear to me. How do we explicate better the second principle that I'm highlighting, that Tosos highlights? Anybody want to help me? Need somebody to help me because
I think the idea is that that there's certain actions you can't be any part of in the world, right? That they are asur for you to be a partner in, period.
And therefore, if you gotta say more.
You're just, all you're doing, and therefore is just getting somebody else's hands to do it. But you are not allowed to muzzle an animal to make it do harisha, and therefore, at the end, there's no difference between you doing it or the non-Jew doing it on your word. At the end of the day, your word essentially has almost the power of your hands at that point. So you've essentially...
It goes this way. I'm just kind of doing chavruta with you. Maybe LeAkum, you'll help me, but let me try it again. There can't be hana, and there can't be avera.
Yeah.
For yourself, if there's hana for yourself, oh no, sorry, those are that you can't be. If there's hana for yourself, then you're guilty. If there is avera for yourself,
how can you do that?
Can I put it differently, Rav Landes?
Yeah, go ahead, try.
I think the Hanak thing is like whether or not is like about the consequence of the action. But here we're actually worried about the action itself. Like muzzling an animal is a problem, and therefore if it's done through your koach, and your koach can be an Amira, that's a problem. We don't care about what benefits from it.
So say it over again to everybody.
I think there's in that view, the shita that it's not about hana'ah, would be essentially saying, yeah, you cannot be the person who causes the muzzling of an animal that is then, and you caused it. Who cares about whether or not you got benefit from it? Hana is not the problem. The problem is the action itself.
Okay, good. So now what we'll attempt to do is understand these full concepts by going to the Ritvah. The Ritvah, just as Bubba, it's on the top. On the second page, it says on the top of the page, Tavshin Nun, Tavshin Mentet, Tavshin Nun. It says Bubba Metzia, Tzadi.
It's the next page. Yeah.
Tzadik Amud Bet.
It's, no, we did Amud Bet. It doesn't say on the top. What happened to these pages?
Yeah, you went too far, I think.
Oh, here it is. Okay. This is the first page. It's the Ritvah, but it doesn't say the first 2 pages of the Ritvah. The second page says the Ritvah on top. The first page just says Tavshin Nun, Mentet, Tavshin Nun. And on the left side it says Yiboy Lahu, and I have a little mark there. Yavdi, do you see it?
I do.
You do. Okay.
Okay, I found
Isaac, you see it?
Yeah, found it. Thank you.
Okay, Isaac, you read. Yiboy Lahu.
Well, no, when I go to the other screen, is my video still working? I never know that. Can you guys see me now?
Yes.
We see you.
Okay, good. I can see you. Ibai lehu. Mao sheomer adam legoy chasom parati v'dosh ba. Perush Rashi zal v'dosh ba b'tvoa shelcha. V'kshu b'tosfot v'lo yecholu lomar legoy.
By the way, he's probably Zelashana.
Perush Rashi Zelashana. Dosh ba b'tvoa shelcha. So Rashi puts it on somebody else's grain. V'kshu b'tosfot v'lo yecholu lomar legoy yechol nevelot. But you can tell a non-Jew to eat nevelas. What's the difference? B'tirtzu deshani hatam she'yisrael yechol achilo b'yadayim. V'chol she'oseh omer lo v'kol she'oseh omer lo la'asot. Ma she'en ken
This like becomes a principle. Kol she'oseh, any act that you can do, you can tell a person that you can do. You can give a guy the cheeseburger, and you could therefore
tell him to eat a cheeseburger.
Give him different. You can tell him to eat it. מה
שאין כן בזו, שאסור לישראל לדוש דישה של גוי בחסימה, כיוון שאינו עושה, אינו אומר לגוי עשה. So it's the exact opposite. Since you can't do it, you can't tell a goy to go do it. אבל רבינו...
wait, I want to stop here. Any meta-philosophic principle here?
It's like Kant.
I said it that way.
It's kind of like Kant. What is hateful unto you, do not do unto your friend.
I think that
predates Kant. It appears that
Kant. I had to change it. It's not really Kant, because Kant is, if everybody would do it, the world would cease to function, and that's not exactly. So it's not really Kant. But you're right. But it's a principle that you don't do unethical things. You don't tell if it's unethical for you, then it's unethical for everybody.
I feel he also says here the
Kant says the opposite. If it's unethical for everybody, then it's unethical for you.
Okay. And Isaac, what do you got?
I was just, there's a sentence here. So, the degree is that, does that mean that you can't, it's not only that you can't tell a goy to do it with yours, but also you can't, if you're working for the goy and you are threshing for them, you can't do it b'chasima. It almost seems like it's an Isur Gavra.
The Isur Gavra on the Jew.
On the Jew, that even if it's not your animal and it's not your grain and you're going to work in the field of the goy, you still can't. You can't muzzle the ox.
So it's not a Gavra, but it's not a Chepsa. In other words, not a fact that it's your ox. It could even be the goy's ox, as you just said.
Yeah, that's what I think the Ritvah is saying here, because he says, וכיבה, מה שאין כן בזו, שאסור לישראל לדוש דישה של גוי בחסימה. You can't do the disha, you can't do the threshing of a goy when the ox is muzzled.
Even though you're not getting benefit.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with benefit. It has nothing to do with ownership even. It's not about the ox. It's about you.
So thank you, Isaac, and thank you, LeAkum. I mean, this is another major principle. You can't make the goy into a Shabbos goy, kind of speaking. I don't, in terms of the term that's often used in a terrible way. You can't make him something that you can't do. He can't do either. That's what it says.
You become an unethical person, really, if you think about it. It seems unethical if a Jew can't carry something and you say, "Can you ask a guy to carry it for you?" First of all, it's breaking the I-thou relationship. You're objectifying him. You're turning him into a machine. And secondly, you're treating him not as a human being. And secondly, if it's unethical for you, it should be unethical. Like it's an ethical principle where it's actually getting a very big ethical principle, which is that Judaism expands to encompass others. We don't expect others to do things that we ourselves can't do.
But
okay, anybody else on this?
Sorry, Mimi had her hand up before I spoke. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that I see this in the text, but I just disagree with Rav Nachum. I think that if you're in a community where you it's wrong, it's not right for me to do a thing on Shabbos, maybe I would respect that, I wouldn't expect my Christian friend to do that on their Sabbath, but we can have a mutual relationship where, we do things for each other on each other's Sabbaths.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a more pluralistic view than as though to say I think you should be doing this too, kind of. What?
Shabbos is a little bit different because Shabbos.
Oh, I see. You're saying the muzzle in particular.
Yeah, Shabbos is a bit different because Shabbos there's nothing unethical about the behavior. It's just on this particular day we don't do that.
Right. Whereas I see. Okay.
This behavior is unethical.
Okay. I see. So you're saying specifically.
Well, what I meant to say by unethical, I meant unethical to have a. Did I say unethical? If I said it, I would mean it in the sense of having someone, just what it says here, have someone do what you yourself can't do. I didn't say what the content of the particular act is, whether it's Shabbos or whether it's the muzzling. We understand muzzling. I'm saying this because the Rishonim don't make distinctions between ethical laws and ritual law. They just don't. But they do make this interesting distinction here. I'm sorry for repeating it, but just what it says here. The kevan she'eino oseh eino omer legoyase. That they do say, and that therefore is a relationship. And LeAkum brings out the chesed of I-thou, but that's really true, that there is a thou here seemingly working in this situation. What do you have, Gershon?
I just say it was a question. I don't actually get the correlation between lachilot taref or whatever it is that you're giving something's taref because you can't do it. So if we're saying that
you can do it, there you can do it.
We can't eat it.
No, but you could put the pork in his mouth.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, why is that different? We can't do it. We're not allowed to eat it.
Yeah, he's got a point.
Well, because there's a pasuk.
Is that they're not cogent in my mind. They're not classic examples of things which we can do, which the goy can't do.
What we're missing here is that there is an actual shita in the Rishonim that it's usher for a goy to muzzle the ox. That would go against my ethical thing. Where does that come from? I don't remember it right now.
That was the end of the Gemara we were just looking at, wasn't it?
Then quote it, find it.
It was a different file. I have to.
No, the end of the Gemara says that it's forbidden for a goy to castrate an ox, not to muzzle.
Oh, for the castration.
You're right. It was the other one.
You're right. I had it wrong. Thank you, Noah.
Yeah.
I had it wrong. Although the castration is a great example. It's even also for him to to castrate. I don't know under what file that goes, the Easter on castration for a goy, but it's a great one.
You mean like which of the seven?
Going back to Gershon, I don't have an answer. Gershon, I don't have an answer for you right now. I got to think about it, but I don't have an answer. Let's go on further in the Ritvah. Ava Rabbeinu Hagadol, who's reading? Isaac.
I was reading. Ava Rabbeinu Hagadol Rambam Zal, Omer Shalom Amira Lagoy Shvut, Afilu b'ma she'en Yisrael oseh, אלא כשאומר לו לעשות לצורך ישראל, ולא באומר לו לעשות לצורך גוי עצמו. So this whole thing with Shvut, Ram says, is only when you do it letzorech Yisrael, there's no prohibition of Shvut of telling a goy to do something for themselves.
So now define Shvut once again. Noam, help me with what's the definition of Shvut now with all the things we've been saying? Maybe that's the way to have given a share. Go ahead.
Yeah, when a non-Jew is asked to do something for a Jew from which the Jew would benefit.
Good. Which a Jew will benefit and which he shouldn't be doing, right?
Which the Jew himself should not be doing, correct.
Okay, good. Got to put those lines in. Now, the next lines are pretty good in the Ritvah. Go ahead, Isaac.
שהרי מותר הרופא וכל אדם לומר לגוי שיבשל לו שיעשה סם פלוני לעצמו בשבת. וכן המנהג פשוט בכל ישראל לרופאים. A Jewish doctor can tell a non-Jew to cook themselves some food on Shabbos or to prepare proper medication on Shabbos. You can tell that to a non-Jew to take care of themselves. V'hacha Hachi kamar מהו לומר לגוי חסום פרטי ודוש בה בתבואה שלי.
Therefore, it has to be that way. That's the Isur.
The Isur has to be that it's my tvuah, but not your tvuah?
Yeah. And that fits in, we have the hana factor, right? The Jew gets no hana, or as Rashi says, in fact, if anything, he has a loss because his cow is being used for heavy labor. And so there is, so therefore that would make it mutter for the goy case. And what's the other stuff? There's no, evidently, as opposed to castration, I was making a mistake. There is no Isur for a goy not to be chosem. I wish there was, but there is no Isur for a restriction on the non-Jew from muzzling. I wish there was, but there isn't. And that fits in basically in terms of our definition. Now let's go on. Mi amrinan.
Ki amrinan amira lagoy shvut. Hanimile Shabbat isur skila. V'im tomar v'lo yom tov v'cholosh moed en bo el alav. V'kaim lan dekol she'no oseh eino omer lagoy v'oseh. I don't understand the question. Ki amrinan. In
other words, well, the first question is, it's only an Easter lap. So, that kind of thing about levels of culpability. Then the kaimel on the kol she'no oseh eino omer lagoy v'oseh.
That's a principle we have about Yom Tov, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it's part of this. It's part of the same question. Yom Tov, unlike Shabbat, is only a lav, but we already know from elsewhere that you can't do Amira LeAkum on Yom Tov. So that would seemingly be a challenge to the Gemara's question.
Or
okay, good.
Or that could have been the answer to the Gemara's question, and they didn't need to bring all the brightot that we brought.
Fair enough.
I'm a loss. Why is this? I don't understand the question.
No, okay. No, I'm explaining to Isaac and to the rest of us again.
We know that Amira LeAkum is a thing for Shabbat because so the question is whether it's only for Shabbat because there's a skila component, or can we export it to every lav? The problem is we already have an established principle that Yom Tov, which is only a lav and not skila, also has the prohibition of Amira LeAkum. So either my way of phrasing that challenges the Gemara's assumption, or Joel's way of phrasing it that could have been the Gemara's answer, but it chooses not to.
Okay, good. V'kaimelon, Isaac, continue. V'kaimelon.
V'kaimelon dekol she'no oseh eino omer lagoy v'oseh. ותרצו בתוספות דשני יום טוב, דשבת ויום טוב, כי הדד עינינו לעניין זה. כדאמרינן בפרק במאי שהיוצא, יום טוב ושבת, כי הדד עינינו.
They're buddies. In other words, well, even though one's alive in terms of punishment and one's skila, they're buddies in terms of basic formation. And therefore, you don't have to make a distinction. You don't make a distinction between the two. That's just straight process, general halacha process there. ואף על פי
שלעניין יונק מחלב בהמה מפני צער גופו חלקו בין שבת ויום טוב. So there is a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov about, drinking milk from the udder. כדתניא אבא שלו אומר, נוגין היינו יונקים מבהמה טהורה ביום טוב ולא בשבת. הטעם, כיוון דאיכא צערה בשבת גזרו, ולא ביום טוב, ולא כל הדברים שווים. יש שחלקו בין שבת ליום טוב, ויש שלא חלקו.
The problem of being yonek from an animal, if it's a non-kosher animal, that's obviously not kosher, but it's a Shabbos problem. If it's a kosher animal, you don't have that problem. But say you have a Shabbos problem of doing a Shabbos, is that we have chaliva, milking a cow, milking a goat, a cow, is usher midiraisa on Shabbos.
From dash.
It's mefarek, good.
Mefarek is tolad of dash.
It's a tolad of dash. It's mefarek, davar.
Which is tolad of mefarek, which is tolad of dash.
But Yanika is kalacharyad, so to speak. That's not how people milk. They don't milk by sucking the milk and spitting it out. So therefore, it's only Easter Drabanan. Milking is Easter D'Oraisa for the reasons we just explained that we had learned before. Okay. Where I would say here, Isaac, continue reading.
I'm not familiar with Rashi Tevot Aleph Ad La.
Don't know. Anybody know?
It's Odilma Loshna.
Thank you. Okay, Perish.
Odilma Loshna. All right, so in the Gemara, right? Odilma Loshna. Perush de Behan Nami Gazru Mishum Amira Lagoy Shvut. Mikan Amru Batosfot B'Shem Rav Sadia Gaon Da Amira Lagoy Shvut L'Gabei Shabbat Afilu Kshe Amar Lo Me'erev Shabbat Shu Sha'at Hetera Dahacha Kodem Disha Amar Le Shi Sha'at Hetera V'chen Badin Daha Afilu B'Lo Amira Klal Kol She'oseh Goy Matzmo L'Tzorch Yisrael Asur Ben b'Shabbat, ben b'Yom Tov, kedamrinam b'kama mekomot.
What's happened?
So basically, they raise a question that if you do it in Sha'at Tera, you tell the goy, muzzle the ox. It's before the ox is actually threshing. Therefore, it's not a problem to muzzle. It's not b'Shat Maaseh, or it's a Sha'at Tera.
Right.
Or you tell the goy to do it before Shabbat. It's a Sha'at Tera.
Right.
Anyway, so he says that anyway, we're going to reject this because if he does it l'tzorch Yisrael, it's asur, whether it's Shabbat, whether it's Yom Tov, as written in a number of places.
But what's really happened to Amira LeAkum? Okay, Jeremy, see if I got this right. What's really happened? We understood Amira LeAkum, a direct Amira. Then we had different possibilities of some sort of some sort of hinting Amira. Then we said, okay, so it's Hana. If the guy gets Hana, but the Gemara we still suspect that the Jew gets Hana, but the Gemara we still suspected that the Jew knows that he's going to get Hana. The Jew allows the animal to be stolen, in quotation marks, stolen. So we punish him because he has some involvement. But right now, by the time we get to the Ritvah, by the way, was his Talmud of who?
The Ramban?
Rashba, the Ra'ah and the Rashba. And who were Talmidim of? Ramban. Ramban. By time, Ritvah, by the way, when you're learning a daf and you really want to break your head, you got to start with the Ramban. He breaks your head, then the Rashba will kind of confuse you. By the time it filtered down 3 generations, okay? By the time it filters down 3 generations, the Ritvah is always amazingly clear. Now, by the way, certain possibilities are lost sometimes with the Ritvah. But, and it's Kedai to go back to the Ramban and all that. But here he's very clear. And not only, he's clear, and let me say it better. He's clear to the degree of making the halacha fully, he doesn't trace his steps. He just says, you know what? Anything that's for a Yisrael. He doesn't even use the word hana. Anything that's for Yisrael, that's an Amira. Because why? Because the Jew is saying, do it. Is the Jew saying do it? Yeah, he's saying do it. Why? Because it's for the Yisrael. By the way, this makes the whole notion of having a Shabbos goy really problematic. Because as opposed to saying Hana and who shares Hana, did the Jew really say it? What was the intent of the Jew? When you get to the Ritvah's conclusion here, it gets very difficult. We're going to say, Cheryl? Okay. So fine.
It doesn't mention the Sorach Mitzvah.
Doesn't mention what?
The Sorach Mitzvah.
No. But with Sorach Mitzvah will help us out on almost any Durabanan, even a Shavut. They could help us out. Because again, you have, at least in terms of the authority. And to finish up this part of the Ritvah, as I continue, Hani Torin the Ganvin Aramim, the Gandchin Yaton. Okay?
Perish זה לשונו, שיהיו הגויים גונבים אותם ומסרסים אותם, ואחר כך מחזירים אותם מסורסים, והבעלים היו מעלמים עיניהם, משום דהבה ניחלו במאי דעבדי, והיינו הערמה דידאו, דאמרי הערמה יתעבד בהון. Right, so the non-Jews would steal it, and they castrate and return it, and everybody pretended like it was just complete by coincidence.
But the new word here is ma'alimim.
They would.
The Jew hit himself. He didn't see what was happening. All he knows is he's got back a supercharged ox who's perpetually mad and will plow the field with tremendous amount of kayach.
I thought it's the opposite. The ox must be pretty tame right now in domicile.
Maybe it gets stronger.
Okay, I'll tell you, your shot pound is better than me. In other words, you get a productive ox. Okay.
והגוינים פירשו, שהיו קושרים כיס של מאות מידה כפה
this is what we read this already.
ובא הגוי לגנוב הכיס, מושך אותו בכוח לשם מתססס.
No, that's fine. That's all I want now. Now, turn to Gemara. We'll just take a second. Shabbos, Kuf Chaf Bet. No, it won't. We don't have the time. So I think we're in a good place. What hopefully we'll do next week, you'll be sent out. Rav Nachum and I will plan the share for next week, which we will use. What Siman is it, Rav Nachum? You still there, Rav Nachum?
Yeah, 307, right?
I don't remember.
307.
Yeah, 307. We'll figure out which that use this. And there's still one or two. Don't lose these pages because we'll make reference to these pages and see some of the Gemara inside. Finally, I've been speaking to different Talmidim. Those of you who have not had a chance to speak with me, please give me times that it's good to talk to you. I have some things to talk to you about and all the rest. And that's about it for tonight, except I should have a bigger finish. My bigger finish is, and Gershon tried to walk it back, how do you ever give a heter for having a goy shel Shabbat? Where is ever a heter? Anything he's doing in the end, anything he does for you is awesome. And the fact that you don't see what he's doing is only because you're part of the conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. And you're part of the conspiracy. You're ma'alming because you let yourself not know. You hide yourself as if you don't know. But the truth is, what's that? So we had the principle of Hana, which is now, gone this far. And we had the issue of anything that a goy does for you, because I said it already. What other principle did I miss? And also the fact that you can't let him do something for you that what? What was the principle?
That you yourself can't do.
That you yourself can't do. You can't, and that sounded like an ethical principle. That sounded like and we shouldn't lose that ethical principle. And there's a reason why in Yiddish, and at least the Yiddish I used to hear, they would use the term Shabbos goy, sometimes a reference to a Jew, about somebody who would do something for you that you really shouldn't be doing, and he or she shouldn't be doing, but they're doing it for you, and you're using them as a Shabbos goy. This is a tear at the heart of ethical Judaism. There is a problem here. Anyway, we'll talk more about the least halachically.
I have a sister who regularly refers to herself as my Shabbos goy.
There you go. There you go.
Same parents, by the way.
But she loves you. But they love you. They love you. That's the difference. They love you. Okay, very good. For the new people here today, welcome. Take care. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.